In this presentation, we will be looking at learning intentions and success criteria. Quite often, we struggle to define and craft success criteria. Let us first unpack the difference between learning intentions and success criteria. We will then proceed to look at 6 ways to implement success criteria in our classrooms. Learning intentions describe clearly what the teacher wants students to know, understand, and do as a result of the lesson or a series of lessons. Typically, we call these learning or lesson objectives. We derive learning intentions from the syllabi or our teaching and learning guides. On the other hand, success criteria give a definition to the learning intentions. Success criteria explicate what students would say or do to demonstrate that they have learned. There can be many success criteria leading to the final learning intention. Success criteria do not refer to the product of the learning activity. They include the processes taken to reach each success criterion. These are called process success criteria. Let's look at this example. The learning intention is to learn how the features of the text contribute to its meaning. The success criteria are the actionable elements that have been deconstructed from the learning intentions. There are also process success criteria that will enable students to demonstrate a specific success criterion. For example, to demonstrate the ability to make a comparison of text features, they will need to know how to identify and extract text features. Teachers can collaboratively engage in discussions to deconstruct learning intentions to identify the measurable and actionable elements that will make learning visible. The remaining set of slides will be sharing with you 6 ways of implementing success criteria in your classes. They are using I and we can statements, checklists, rubrics, teacher modeling, exemplars, and co-constructing criteria for success. I or we can statements are crafted in a way to make the success criteria relatable and accessible to students. This helps students to know what they need to do to show their understanding and where they are in their progress towards the learning intention. It also helps them note the evidence they need to produce at various points of the learning experience. Here is a primary science example. Each of the success criteria progressively helps students towards the learning intention, which is to show that they have learned about different adaptations that animals have to survive in their habitats. We often use checklists for students to understand the steps they need to take, or as tools for peer and self-assessment. Checklists are a good approach to allow students to check on their strengths and areas for growth. They can be used for self as well as peer assessment. Here you have an example of a checklist used for the structure of writing Peel. Rubrics are another important way of making success criteria explicit for students. There are 3 components in a rubric: criteria, achievement levels, and descriptors. Together, they help students to understand what success looks like. With the use of exemplars for comparison, students can also find out how near or far away from the learning intentions they are. Teacher modeling is a common approach to teaching many subjects. It is indeed a great approach to share success criteria. It is especially useful for teaching complex and abstract concepts, or in the case of introducing new success criteria. Here are some things to note when using this approach. It is important to provide a meaningful context for the modeling so that students can relate to it. When modeling, teachers can think aloud or express their thinking process verbally and visually. Students can also be involved in the modeling process to increase their engagement in learning. Exemplars are pretty common in classrooms. However, the value of exemplars lies in their ability to exemplify different levels of expectations and achievements. Carefully curated exemplars can help students to make sense of the standards and achievement levels in the success criteria and self-evaluate their progress towards the learning intention. Below are 3 examples of how exemplars can be used. Many of the strategies described thus far can be used collaboratively with students. Doing this will allow students to co-construct the criteria for success. That way, they will understand the relevance of the task. They will also be more engaged since they will be involved in developing the success criteria. This results in building students' confidence about meeting the expectations of the success criteria. Your choice of the strategy to implement success criteria depends on the readiness of your students in being independent in their learning. It also depends on the focus of your learning intention. However, with appropriate amounts of teacher guidance, students at lower levels and students who need more support can effectively co-construct success criteria with you. In conclusion, we can note that success criteria is not a good to have, but it's a must-have in our classes. Knowledge of success criteria helps to support the development of assessment and feedback literacy in students by helping them to answer these 3 questions. Where am I going? How am I going? Where do I go next? I hope you have found this presentation on success criteria useful. Here are some references for you if you are interested to find out more.